I think all of us are always fascinated by whoever is the Fed chairman in turn and the way they handle, questions. And at some point, it just becomes almost comical, as you were saying, right? It reminds me of a friend I had in high school who, he was, had always kept promising this girl that he was gonna get married, and the months and years would go away, and she'd still believe that it was gonna happen, and was able to get that for an incredibly long time. It's a little bit like that.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And in today's show, we're going to talk about some interesting commentary out of Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, where, amongst other things, now, I guess, a week after raising interest rates 75 basis points, he's finally seeing some signs of recession, which many business leaders across the globe have been noticing. Anyone with a 401k has been noticing. Although in addition to that, also talking about some central bank digital currencies and ways to improve what we have now, keep the dollar in its role as the reserve currency. I didn't know, or I guess I did know that there were some threats to that going on. But in either case, joining me to dig in is Jorge Ramiro Monroy of Reina Silver. So Jorge, great to have you here as always. And nice to see that you're back in Mexico City as we're recording today. So how's everything going with you?
Very well, Chris. Great to see you. Very nice to be back. And it's been such an exciting week in the world of finance, of markets, and specifically, so many things that are affecting precious metals. So I was quite excited with your invitation to come and discuss some of that in your show.
Well, it is certainly the case. Sometimes I wonder, it's, how did you find something new to look at silver each day? But Jerome Powell is certainly helping make that easy. Again, last Fed meeting, he said he was going to raise interest rates. He's got inflation under control, no sign of recession. And then you can see these headlines just pulling up on Google everywhere. Sees ongoing interest rates hikes needed to tame hot inflation, but notes recession is now a possibility. So Jorge, I think you were already aware of that. You've seen enough of these cycles and understand what happens when you take away the printed money. But what do you say there? It's interesting to see such a quick change of tone from Jeremy Powell.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, Chris, I had a chance to while I was working, I was listening to the hearing yesterday in Congress, and there was some really interesting clips there. And especially from the Democrat senators, a lot of concern about they don't want to go into a recession, right? And especially so close to a midterm election where they might just completely. I think at this point, most of us will agree they're likely to lose control of both houses. So it was quite interesting to hearing the questions and then hearing the answers. And I think all of us are always fascinated by whoever is the Fed chairman in turn and the way they handle questions. And at some point, it just becomes almost comical, as you were saying, right? It reminds me of a friend I had in high school who, he was, had always kept promising this girl that he was gonna get married, and the months and years would go away, and she'd still believe that it was gonna happen, and was able to get that for an incredibly long time. It's a little bit like that. It's just say whatever is gonna allow you to live another day, and then let's deal with the consequences later. But a couple of things that really caught my yeah, exactly. That was a great movie. But yeah, it was a couple of things that he said that were quite amusing. Was he's talking about how he's confident he's not trying to create a recession, and the main concern he has is keeping up prices from skyrocketing. And the more they push him, the more the truth comes out. It's a really interesting session if anybody has a chance to hear. And then I was also quite amused. I actually hadn't seen this clip before the show that you showed me. I know that you wanted to show it. It's quite an interesting one as well. I actually had not heard about it, but definitely worth to listen to it.
Yeah, and of course, Jorge is referring to comments about central bank digital currencies and maintaining the role of the dollar, which we'll get to in a second. Although, Jorge, something you touched on is that when Jerome Powell talks about he's confident that he has it under control, I mean, I think confidence is great. And it's, you know, if you're actually good at something and know what you're doing and you're confident about that, it's spectacular. I mean, I think you have a lot of confidence in your project, especially because you've studied silver mining for a long time. You have Peter McGaw, who's on your team and a great track record of success. So there's confidence, but then there's misplaced confidence, because here's the same guy that was saying that inflation was transitory, turned out to be wrong. He was saying there was no recession, along with Janet Yellen, turned out to be wrong. Again, reminds me a lot of Ben Bernanke, who was confident that subprime was contained, and then we watched the banks melt down right after that. So another sign, though, that this doesn't seem as confident. And here is what you were mentioning. He had some interesting comments. Rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar. Now, I don't know if you started reading the headlines about Russia and the BRICS continuing to move towards a basket of currencies, but let's take a listen at what he had to say here.
Looking forward, rapid changes are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Most major economies already have or are in the process of developing instant 24/7 payments. Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. As our white paper on this topic notes, a U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing. Looking forward, rapid change.
So
That's an amazing clip, Chris. I actually hadn't heard this one before today.
Well, it just strikes me as odd. First of all, he's saying to build a 24/7 payment system. I mean, geez, I thought we already had that. Also odd, the timing. I mean, he's saying this a couple of days after we've seen the cryptos sell off quite severely, and now he wants to adopt it. And again, I'll play that last part one more time, because to help maintain the dollar's role, I'm surprised that he's acknowledging that it needs some help. But
as our white paper on this topic notes, a U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing.
So let's translate it into real English, where, you know, because I mean, it's quite an amazing clip, right? As you say, you know, acknowledging the. I mean, last I checked, there was no challenge to the U.S. dollar as a global currency.
Well, that has been changing, though. I think in their world, they think they've been telling everyone there's no threat, but now, after seeing the continuation, escalation of Russia invoking gold to back their ruble to some degree, and it seems like they're not done. Russia lines its state fund of precious metals for military mobilization. Interesting. Create a new reserve fund of gold and precious metals. Well, if they're already mentioning gold and precious metals, that one could infer unofficially what another precious metal in there would be.
And platinum and palladium, of course. But yeah, no, I mean, and these are all. I mean, I think the big takeaway from all the, you know, all the Fed talk over the last few days, you know, I think I take this last clip, you know, when they're saying we're examining introducing a Federal Reserve coin. I think that really means we've already made the decision months ago, and we're, you know, gently letting you know that that's coming, so you're prepared. I agree with you. It's odd that, you know, they've been minimizing Bitcoin for so long. I have to say, it's probably one of the first times also that I hear them express any concern that the U.S. dollar needs to be maintained as a reserve currency. Most of the time, you hear from officials across the board, there's a, nobody expresses openly concern for that. I think obviously some Republican and libertarian politicians, yeah, they've been talking about the decline of the U.S. dollar, but sort of more on the mainstream, it's really not something that you hear too much. Now, the other thing, Chris, that I thought was quite interesting was, just in the context of everything that's been happening over the last few weeks, and frustrating for us who are sort of in gold and silver and who have a fundamental belief that gold and silver should be orders of magnitude higher than they're now. I think the one thing that's a big takeaway for me is, against all this backdrop of traditionally negative news, raising interest rates, the kind of Fed talk of, sort of striking a very positive tone. I mean, gold and silver have remained very, very resilient, very resilient. So I think we're approaching a situation where at some point, the Fed is already hinting they may have to either take a pause on rates if we go into on rate hikes if we go into a recession, and then how many people think we can control inflation? There was a big portion of the hearing yesterday where I think I saw this lady who's a senator from the Democrat Party, I'm blacking out on her name, but she was saying, questioning the Fed, gas prices are really the biggest driver of price increases. What can the Fed do to control those? That's a very good point, right? There's not much the Fed can do. So it speaks to the point that at the end of the day, the increasing the rates may do more to create a recession than to control inflation. So I think any significant change in that approach, and I don't know what you think, Chris, but I think will be quite positive for gold and silver. That could potentially be the detonant for gold and silver prices.
Well, that's why I've always felt that despite the price moves in the short term, that at least if I just want to save and not be a hedge fund manager, that
Correct.
Gold and silver seem pretty safe to me. Because like you point out, what is he going to do to reduce the gas prices? He's talking about giving out gas rebate cards.
Yeah.
I mean, he may as well light the fire, get the gas pump squirted on there. I mean, inflation, he's going to solve it with more inflation. I hear there's a decision coming due on whether they're going to do student loan forgiveness, which, on one hand sounds great, but all of these things just of printing more money, and he can call it the Putin price hike all he wants. Although it was interesting, I saw CNBC, even they were saying, wait a second, Putin price hike, this inflation was soaring before that. So I think the secret is starting to get out, whether he's pulling a Frank Drebin and really doesn't see anything there or not.
No, of course they know that it's. I mean, this is obvious to anyone, right? It's just trying to keep things from spiraling out of control. But again, every day that passes, Chris, and I was rewatching a clip of a conversation that you and I had. I think was it a year ago almost? And I think you and I had an exchange on Twitter. And at the time, they were still talking about 5% inflation, is transitory. They're not dumb. They know what's going on. It's just how do you keep they've so successfully kept the act going for so many years and really in a way so many decades, right? So why wouldn't it keep working? I think the problem is that we're reaching the point where something is going to give. Definitely for me in my lifetime, this is the first experience of inflation. It's very sort of to this extent. It's been very interesting traveling around the U.S., particularly traveling now in Mexico. But it really struck me. I was in a few cities in the U.S. and then I was in Vancouver and Toronto for the mining conferences. It was having not been there since the beginning of COVID, really striking the price of everything. So expensive. The other thing is the situation with the airports, right? Where you had it's become so difficult to move around. The flights canceled. There's not enough people. I mean, it's kind of lunacy, right? In the middle of the U.S. Government having given stimulus checks to the airport authorities precisely so that it wouldn't cut on employees. So then they took the money and they let go of the employees. So now that people are starting to travel again, it's an absolute chaos. It's not. It's, you know, those are sort of the ways that you feel it, because, you know, you're traveling, you're getting in a car, you're going to a restaurant, and all of a sudden it's costing you. It's not costing you 8% more, Chris. It's costing you a good 30-40% more than it cost before. You know, so it used to be like when people were saying, okay, inflation's 2%, and we were laughing, oh, it's really more like 6 or 7. You know, but you could get away with it because at the end of the day, you didn't seem on your day-to-day, you know, so the change in prices was, yeah, okay, things are a little more expensive than last year. We're now on a situation where just in the last 6 months, like the cost of everything is just absurd. You know, people deciding to. I was talking to a few friends that I went to university with in the U.S., and they were telling me, look, we just put a budget for the gas. This is how much gas there is for the month, and if, you know, we go past that budget, we, you know, instead of going to the mall or to the restaurant, or you know, we're going to stay home. You know, asking the office, can I work from home once or twice a week? Not because I don't want to be in the office, not because of COVID, but, you know, otherwise it just almost doesn't make sense to go to work because I'll have to spend my salary on the gas. I mean, these are pretty serious stuff, and, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they can bring this under control.
Yeah, it sure will be. I don't know if that's going to be possible under the current monetary regime. Everything I've studied my entire career, I think, is what you're speaking about, because there's not, well, Joe Biden's going to flip the switch here and it's all good. That doesn't exist. The damage has been done. The money has been stolen. It's been printed. The wealth has been taken. In fact, I think you mentioned the stimulus checks in there. And sure enough, here on CNBC, how likely are stimulus checks to be used in the next recession? Economists weigh in. So they're already talking about it. And here, the popularity of payments and finding they reduce poverty and promoted spending means they're likely to become a tool pulled out by government in the next recession, which may be coming soon, according to experts, including Jerome Powell. So I think that really gets to what you're commenting on there, and people are seeing this maybe in their own time, in their own way, and when maybe a more mainstream starts turning to silver as a solution, maybe that will take a little while, but you see the corner they're backed into with no easy way out of there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Chris, that the again, some of these and think about, like, say to 10 years ago, where a lot of the things, like you would hear a lot of the commenters on our industry who are contrarians talk about, you know, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and 10 years ago, I think most people thought, you know, that's crazy talk. And how stunning is to see it every day playing out in front of our eyes. You know, the stimulus checks, and also the you know, some of the things that I heard in the like for instance, even having the digital currency as part of the central bank. You know, for somebody like me who's lived you know, the majority of my life in between Mexico and Asia. You know, you start hearing a lot of things that we grew up with, but not in the U.S. You know, in countries that are, you know, consider either emerging markets or when I was younger they call it the third world, and you know, a lot of that stimulus check has been a very typical usage from governments, for instance, in Mexico, to garnish votes, right? So, I mean, is the U.S. coming to that? I mean, you know, if maybe in the middle of a recession, and as you get closer to the election, you know, those have been quite popular. But you know, and I think in some cases have been very helpful to some people in some industries that had to shut down. But also it was abused to such a large extent. I was looking at the statistics of just the amount of fraud that happened through stimulus money related to COVID, and it's stunning numbers. So I think we've reached a very interesting point. I think all of us are quite concerned as to how things are going to develop. And again, I go back to the performance of gold and silver over the last 2 years. Actually, really more like 2.5 now since the beginning of COVID. And they're certainly playing their role. Hedging against inflation and preserving wealth. And then I think we're in a situation where, for a lot of investors, it used to be a situation. Okay, it's an asset class, but I think for more and more, it'll become just a tool to just hold on to some of the value of your money and your wealth.
Yeah, and certainly I know people are a little bit, maybe a lot upset about the recent decline in the face of everything that's going on. Yeah. Although for those who were doing this for a while, I mean, we had silver in the teens for the better part of the decade. So the silver price has moved. We've seen it get close to the $30 mark a couple of times, closer to 20 right now. But again, these are the dynamics that, at least when you think of where we are and where we're headed.
It's important to mention, Chris, and sorry to interrupt you. No, it's important to also remember, silver has maintained their price in the middle of a lot of pressure from, obviously we've discussed ad nauseum the price manipulation, but I think, in my opinion, that's a relatively small element. But in the midst of rate hikes, both gold and silver have held together quite well. I think if you look at the charts of the rate hikes since the rate hikes started, gold and silver go down a little bit on the announcement of the rate hikes, but little by little start going back up. I think that's as you say, it's frustrating when you're I think we all of us who are investing in the sector have this fundamental belief that silver and gold should be higher. But let's also not forget for instance, Chris, there was a lot of debate 4 or 5 months ago. I don't know if you came across this as much as I did, but a lot of investors starting to think that Bitcoin was going to take over the role of gold. I think that has been proven that it's an asset class that has yes, it might be some sort of wealth preservation, but the volatility is just crazy. I think gold and silver have remained incredibly steady and stable on the face of all the volatility. So I think these things are not to be taken lightly. The other thing, Chris, is the U.S. dollar has remained incredibly strong. That's again that strong U.S. dollar with weak gold, negative correlation has not been happening pretty much for the past 2 years. At the end of the day, there's something changing, and almost every day that you follow the market, more and more and more elements come together supporting the thesis for precious metals.
Well, I certainly think so, and yeah, the move in Bitcoin. Go ahead.
No, I was going to add commodities in general. That's the other thing that I've been seeing in my I attended a number of mining conferences over the last few months, and a lot of people realizing the value of just all commodities in general. I think there'll be a move. I was just looking at how much people are buying agricultural land. Everything to do with fertilizers, anything food related is just, I don't know if you follow it, Chris, but it's just been going through the roof. Everything related to battery metals, lithium, cobalt, nickel. So it is, I think, that move that all of us have been discussing for so many years. A move into real assets, hard assets, is now really taking place. I had a good opportunity to see a presentation from Willem Middelkoop, who's been talking about the Great Reset for a long time, and he talks about it in his book and talks about it also in his presentations about how that this great reset, that again, a stunning clip that you found with talking about with the Fed chairman talking about the stability of the U.S. as a global currency and the idea of introducing a digital coin. What is that going to be backed? Is it going to be just a U.S. dollar, or is it also going to have to be a basket? These are very interesting things to keep our eyes on. To the other thing that I've been looking at, Chris, is just the decline on buying of U.S. Treasuries over the last few years, especially out of Asia. Yep. But now you're seeing it even out of Europe. People are not not as excited to be buying U.S. Treasuries as they once were. So anyway, these are all things definitely to keep an eye on, and definitely very interesting. I think it's going to be a very interesting summer for gold and silver. What about you, Chris? What do you think is the summer is going to be like in terms of precious metals, and particularly in terms of prices?
I think it'll probably either sit there or at some point we see some sort of break, because the situation to me reminds me a lot of the housing bubble, which is what got me into gold and silver. I just finished MBA school, was working on a trading floor, didn't see any of this coming yet. Here was Bernanke, all the government officials saying it was the perfect storm no one could have seen.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of people who saw it clear as day. They were all talking about gold and silver, the Fed policy. And then a couple of years later, we had silver shooting up to $50 as they were starting QE. The US was getting downgraded. So I get it. It's a difficult situation where you see something happening in slow motion, yet the pricing hasn't moved the way some of us have expected yet. Although you look at those dynamics that are in place and just try and make the best decisions you can, although the signs are there. Jerome Powell's now admitting that he was wrong about inflation. Now talking about central bank currencies. Russia's now with the BRICS making baskets of currencies. So it seems like it's headed towards one of those situations where after it moves, then it's already moved, which makes it a wise time to be prepared and noticing what's going on now, which I think you're doing and appreciate you sharing. At least giving people insight of what to look for into things that are now even being mentioned on the mainstream. And I think that's a telling sign. So either case, Jorge, before we wrap up, perhaps you could just give folks a quick update on what's going on with Reina Silver, where you have 3 district scale projects that you guys are looking at there. And perhaps you could just fill folks in on any new developments.
Absolutely, Chris. For those of you who might not be familiar with Reina Silver, we're a silver exploration company. We have 3 projects, 2 in Mexico, 2 in Mexico, 1 in Nevada. And our focus is on looking at brownfield projects and looking at them with a new light, with a new perspective. We're looking for, doing exploration around either former producing mines that were very prominent, especially in the 18 and 1900s, but that have had very little exploration in modern days. And with the benefit of modern technology, we're trying to establish these projects as true district scale projects. We talk a lot about silver, the metal in Chris's show. And on the mining side, there's a very interesting dynamic happening, which is, silver, especially primary silver deposits are very rare. Very few discoveries in the last 20 years. As a result, you see companies like First Majestic, Pan American Silver, companies like Fortuna Silver having to buy gold instead of silver deposits. And the reason for that is not because they don't like silver. It really is because, once you get very big, you need at least 100 million ounces of high-grade silver, and those deposits are simply not there. So what Reina Silver is trying to address, our value proposition is, let's go and find these districts. Peter McGaugh, who's our chief technical advisor and the founder of Max Silver, has this fundamental belief that, those districts are around historic high-grade producers, the people who put them in production back in the 18 and 1900s, simply didn't have the technology that we have now, both to explore and to extract. So, we're going to be drilling all 3 projects this year. So please do follow the company. And as always, every time Chris invites me to his show, we have a project in Mexico called Batopilas, which is historically the highest grade silver mine in Mexico. It really has a fascinating story. And I think it's either the son or the grandson of the US entrepreneur who put the mine into production in the late 1800s, wrote a book called the Silver Magnet. And if any of your listeners, Chris, would like a copy, please send me an email to jorge@reinasilver.com. That's REYNA, reinasilver.com, or info@reinasilver.com. Send me your address and we'll be happy to send you a copy of the book. But thanks a lot, Chris, for inviting me to have a chat in your show.
Well, I sure appreciate that. Always get to catch up with you, as always. Not the easiest times for people to figure out, although in the end, it's nice that you guys are going out looking for projects that can perform well in almost any silver environment with a good approach there. So again, Jorge from Reina Silver, and we'll look forward to catching up and staying up to date on your progress.
Thank you very much, Chris.